The sun was setting over the small rural town, casting a golden glow over the dusty streets and worn buildings. Ava walked alone, her feet carrying her on a familiar path, one that she had taken countless times before. But today, everything felt different. The weight of her unborn child was growing, and with it, the weight of the town's judgment. She could feel the eyes of the townsfolk upon her, their whispers a constant reminder of her shame. As she passed by the local general store, Mrs. Jenkins looked up from behind the counter, her expression a mixture of disdain and pity. Ava felt a sting from the woman's gaze, but she refused to look away. She had done nothing to be ashamed of, she told herself, but the words rang hollow in her mind. The town had made it clear that she was no longer welcome, that she was an outcast. Ava continued on her way, her feet carrying her to the outskirts of town, where the houses grew farther apart and the streets gave way to rolling hills and open fields. She had always loved this part of town, where the air was fresh and the sky seemed to stretch on forever. But now, even this place felt tainted, spoiled by the knowledge that she was no longer a part of the community. As she walked, Ava felt a sense of desperation creeping in. She had no job, no home, and no support. The father of her child had left her, abandoning her to face the consequences of their actions alone. The town had turned its back on her, and she was left to fend for herself. She thought about the baby growing inside her, and a wave of fear washed over her. How would she provide for it? How would she keep it safe? The sun was dipping below the horizon, casting the sky in a deep shade of pink and orange. Ava found herself at the edge of a small pond, its surface reflecting the colors of the sky. She sat down on a rock, feeling the cool water lap at her feet. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, and let the tears fall. She wept for the life she had lost, for the future she had envisioned, and for the uncertainty that lay ahead. As she sat there, lost in her thoughts, Ava felt a presence behind her. She turned to see a man standing on the edge of the pond, his eyes fixed intently on her. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a strong jawline, his skin a deep brown from years of working in the sun. Ava felt a shiver run down her spine as their eyes met, and for a moment, they just stared at each other. The man's eyes were piercing, but they were also kind, and Ava felt a sense of comfort wash over her. The man, Elijah, stood motionless, his gaze never wavering from Ava's face. He had been watching her from afar, seeing the way the town had turned its back on her, and he had felt a pang of recognition. He knew what it was like to be an outcast, to be judged and rejected by those who did not understand. And in that moment, he felt a deep connection to this young woman who sat alone by the pond, her tears falling. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Elijah slowly turned and walked away, leaving Ava to her thoughts. She watched him go, feeling a sense of wonder at the intensity of his gaze and the kindness that had shone in his eyes. And as she sat there, the darkness gathering around her, Ava felt a sense of hope, a sense that she was not alone, and that maybe, just maybe, she had found an ally in this quiet, mysterious stranger. The sound of crickets and the gentle lapping of the water against the shore were the only sounds that broke the silence. As Ava sat there, the stars shining brightly above her. As the days turned into weeks, Ava's pregnancy became increasingly evident, and with it, the whispers and judgmental glances from the townspeople grew louder. She had learned to navigate the main street with her head held high, ignoring the murmurs that followed her like a shadow. But on this particular morning, as she was leaving the general store with a few necessities, she noticed a figure standing by the old oak tree in the town square. Elijah, the half-breed rancher, was watching her with an intensity that made her pause. His eyes, a deep, piercing brown, seemed to hold 1,000 unspoken words, and for a moment, Ava felt a shiver run down her spine. The town, ever eager for gossip, had already begun to speculate about the father of Ava's child. Some said it was a stranger who had passed through, never to be seen again, while others whispered about a local boy who had since moved away, ashamed. But no one, absolutely no one, had suspected Elijah. He was a man of few words, preferring the solitude of his ranch to the social intrigues of the town. Yet, here he was, his gaze fixed on Ava, with a determination that was both captivating and unsettling. "Ava," Elijah said, his deep voice low and smooth, as he approached her. "May I have a word with you?" His eyes never left hers, and Ava, feeling a mix of trepidation and curiosity, nodded. They walked a short distance from the bustling square, stopping under the shade of a large willow tree. "I've been wanting to speak with you for some time now," Elijah began, his words measured. "About your situation." He paused, his gaze dropping to her rounded belly before returning to her face. "I believe the child you carry is mine." The words hit Ava like a slap of cold water. She had braced for pity, for scorn, for the usual sideways glances that followed her down Main Street. She had not braced for this. Elijah's claim hung in the air, a riddle she could not solve. Why would a man who had spent years building walls around himself suddenly claim a child that could not possibly be his? The townspeople, who had been pretending not to watch, now let their curiosity spill into open stares. A few women near the post office stopped mid-sentence, their mouths slightly open. That evening, the story spread through the diner, the feed store, and the church steps. Mrs. Hartley, who had refused to serve Ava coffee for 3 months, nodded stiffly when she walked past. Mr. Gable, who had crossed the street to avoid her, tipped his hat. The judgment did not vanish, but it softened, replaced by something uncertain. They had been so sure of her shame, so eager to condemn, and now a silent half-breed rancher had thrown their certainty into doubt. Ava found herself watching Elijah more closely. He was not a man of many words, but his actions spoke in quiet, steady rhythms. He fixed the loose board on her porch without being asked. He left a basket of apples on her doorstep, the stems still damp from the morning dew. When she struggled with the heavy water pail, he appeared and carried it without a word. It would have been easy to call it charity, but there was something in the way he moved, deliberate and unhurried, that suggested something deeper. Still, suspicion clung to her like dust. Was this rescue or obligation? Did he pity her, or did he see something in her that she could not see in herself? She wanted to ask, but the words felt too heavy. Instead, she watched him tend to his horses, his hands gentle on their manes, and she noticed the small smile that flickered across his face when he thought no one was looking. The town's transformation was slow and uneven. The diner owner, a stout woman named Clara, set a slice of pie on Ava's table without being asked. "On the house," she muttered, and walked away before Ava could thank her. It was not forgiveness, not yet, but it was a crack in the wall. Ava sat under the willow tree at the edge of town, the same spot where she had cried alone weeks ago. Elijah joined her, sitting a few feet away, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Neither of them spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable. It was a shared space, a quiet acknowledgement that something had shifted between them. She thought about the months ahead, the birth, the whispers that would surely rise again, the questions that had no easy answers, but for the first time, the weight of it did not crush her. Elijah's presence, solid and unassuming, had changed the shape of her future. She did not know where the path would lead, but she no longer walked it alone. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet. Ava looked at Elijah, his profile sharp against the fading light, and felt a fragile, unfamiliar thing stir in her chest. Hope. Together, they had faced the judgment of the town, and together, they would overcome it. The days that followed were not easy, with some townspeople refusing to serve them at the local general store or excluding them from community gatherings. However, there were also those who began to see Elijah in a different light, who realized that his past did not define him, and that his love for Ava and her child was genuine. As they walked down the main street, Ava noticed the subtle changes in the townspeople's behavior. A nod of acknowledgement from the baker, a faint smile from the postmaster. The baby, Lily, brought a new dynamic to their lives, a sense of purpose and belonging that they had not known before. Elijah was a natural father, gentle and caring, and Ava saw the way he looked at Lily, with a love and adoration that melted her heart. As the weeks turned into months, Ava and Elijah's bond grew stronger. They faced challenges, of course, but they faced them together, as a family. On Sundays, they would take Lily to the town's park, where Elijah would push her on the swings, and Ava would watch, feeling a sense of joy and contentment. The town, too, began to see them in a different light, to understand that they were not outcasts, but people who deserved love and respect. It was a hard-won redemption, one that came from the love and acceptance they had found in each other. Ava realized that she had been given a second chance, a chance to build a life with a man who loved her for who she was, and to raise their child in a community that was slowly learning to accept them. As they sat on their porch, watching the stars twinkle to life in the night sky, Elijah turned to Ava and said, "I never thought I'd find a place where I belonged, but I have, with you and Lily. You've given me a reason to keep going, to be a better man." Ava's heart swelled with emotion as she looked at the man who had been shunned and judged, but who had found redemption in her love. As they sat there, the sound of crickets and the occasional hoot of an owl filled the air, creating a sense of peace and tranquility. Ava felt a sense of belonging, of being part of something bigger than herself. She reached out and took Elijah's hand, feeling a sense of comfort and security in his touch. "We've come a long way," she said, looking up at him. "We've faced so much, but we're still standing, together." Elijah's eyes, with their deep, piercing brown color, seemed to bore into her soul, and Ava felt a shiver run down her spine. Elijah smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners, and his face, with its sharp jawline and prominent nose, relaxed into a gentle expression. "We have," he said, "and we'll continue to face whatever comes our way, together. As a family." He looked down at Lily, who was sleeping in her crib, a peaceful expression on her face. "We'll give her the best life possible, Ava. We'll give her a childhood filled with love, laughter, and adventure." Ava's heart swelled with emotion as she looked at Elijah, at the man who had become her rock, her partner, and her friend. Ava's mind wandered back to the day Elijah had first said, "This baby is mine," and how those words had changed everything. They had been a declaration of love and devotion, not just to the baby, but to her as well. As she looked at Elijah, she knew that she had found her home, not just in the town, but in his arms. The stars above seemed to twinkle in agreement, and Ava felt a sense of peace wash over her. They would build a life filled with love, laughter, and adventure, a life that would be a testament to the power of redemption and acceptance. In the silence that followed, Ava and Elijah sat together, watching the stars, their hands entwined, their hearts full of love and hope. The town, once a source of pain and judgment, had become a place of healing and redemption, a place where they could build a life and a future. As they sat there, the darkness gathering around them, Ava knew that they would face whatever came next, together, as a family. And in that knowledge, she found a sense of peace, a sense of belonging, and a sense of redemption. The phrase, "this baby is mine," echoed in her mind, a reminder of Elijah's love and devotion, a love that had conquered all, even the prejudices of a town,